The Secret of the Catkin Family. When the Catkin family moved into a corner tenement house with a garden at Catnip Street, some speculations began to circulate among the residents, further seasoned by gossip in a nearby corner store. "Mind my words, sweetie," said Miss Fox to Miss Turtle, as they stood on the threshold blocking the entrance to other clients. Miss Fox with a cauliflower in a net tote, and Miss Turtle with a small basket of raspberries. "They've got a secret over there." But what secret could such a nice family have? Pete, 8 years old, Natalka, 11 years old, serious Hanya, who left for work daily at 8 a.m. in a blue office uniform, and whose age was double the number of Natalka's years, plus Pete's age, Ivona, called Eva, whose age was the triple multiplication of Pete's plus Natalka's years, and the cat, Migdal, who was as many months as Pete was years old. "Let's hope it's a secret, not a problem," said Miss Turtle. She meant that the older representative of the Catkin family, Eva, would not get up in the morning. You could see her shopping and strolling in the park. Maybe she works at home. Miss Turtle, who recently completed a computer class, and Miss Fox, who just enrolled in the first online painting course for seniors, considered it possible. As for the fact that the family was apparently lacking a dad, neither Miss Fox nor Miss Turtle, experts on life, were particularly concerned. Perhaps he's working on a platform in the North Sea, or maybe driving a truck in Spain, or serving coffee in London. There are so many possibilities. At such theories, a cat would have a laugh, specifically the cat Migdal, who was clearly becoming a female cat. But when Pete had spotted it in the late autumn, and Natalka backed the idea of saving the little creature's life, all that was known was that the tiny gray kitten was the only one from a family of feral cats who guessed in a mere 3 seconds what a plush toy on a fishing rod was for. But then it was too early to determine if Migdal was a male or female cat. Meanwhile, soon after moving in, the lives of the new residents at the corner townhouse with a garden began to look quite ordinary. They consisted of conversations about stuff at school, dinner, homework, a walk in the park, supper, and brushing teeth. But then the secret began. And here Miss Turtle and Miss Fox would have opened their eyes wide if they had known that the secret was much stranger than the most marvelous pictures supplied by their imagination. Every evening Hanya and Eva would throw off their daily clothes. Hanya, a blue bank uniform, and Eva, a hat she liked to wear at work at the computer, and put on soft furry bathrobes. But that was just the beginning. After a while, the sounds coming from their bedrooms would be more and more and more reminiscent of meowing and squeaking, and in a little while the bedroom window would open. Hanya and Eva, completely transformed into cats, would jump from the windowsill onto the garden gazebo. Mikto the cat had known the secret of Hanya and Eva from the start, as soon as they spoke to him or her in meow language, because only real cats communicate in meow. Not to mention that Hanya and Eva had a very rich vocabulary. For example, when Migdal got sick, just after being taken in by the Catkin family, Hanya and Eva softened the application of the medicine by reciting with feeling a beautiful browum in meow. The browum read, and meow, and prow, and meow and prow, and meow and prow, and prow ow ow, and prue and brew, and brew and brew, and pew pew pew, and mew mew mew. The cadencia, or the end of the poem, should be recited in poetry of meow with affection, most often with amazement or pure bliss, depending on what content one wishes to reveal. The sequence of meow motions in the praum is important. For example, if the previous verse has ended in wonder, then the next one has to, it just has to, express overwhelming joy. And prow and mrow, and peow and meow, and mew and pew, and prue, 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 and brew and drew, and mroo, 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 and preow, ow, ow, and meow, prow, ow. As for Migdal, Hanya and Ivo's secret was safe with her, or him. Pete and Natalka had a more difficult task because they both went to school. How many times did Natalka want to tell her best friend that her moms, because that's how Natalka addressed Hanya and Ivo, change into cats every evening? But she wasn't sure if even her closest girlfriend would understand it, so she preferred to keep this secret to herself, at least for now. And Pete also didn't know how to tell his friends that he had two mothers, who every evening changed into cats, and how to deal with such homework as describe Sunday at home, due for a class in a week. It's hard to imagine what would happen if one wrote, "My two mothers, Hanya and Eva, change into cats," in a school essay. Even more strange was that the color of these cats would also change. The color would change every night depending on the mood Hanya and Eva were in. One day Hanya might have had cappuccino colored fur, except that her paws and ears were white as cappuccino foam and her tail was silver as a spoon. Evo, on the other hand, had green fur in the shade of pistachio ice cream, and her paws, ears, and tail were the color of lavender sprinkled with crystals. Another day Hanya might sport red, thick fur, and her ears, paws, and tail would be equally thick, but black. Evo, on the other hand, had black fur. Her ears and paws were blue, and her tail was silky and red. On yet another day Hanya had fur as curly as a little sheep, but the color of old gold. Her tail was orange and sleek, while from her ears and paws a few pink strands protruded, into which a few sequins appeared to be woven. Evo's fur, on the other hand, was all rainbow colored, ears and paws included, while her tail was fluffy and lavender. Both Natalka and Pete had a feeling that they must protect Hanya and Evo's secret, double secret, that they had two mothers and that their mothers changed into cats. It was their shared secret. Pete would catch himself imagining how bad neighbors would surround their house at night, closing in on them with burning torches. Then he would appear on a white horse, a spear in the air, to save Hanya and Eva. Natalka imagined how all five of them, along with Migdal, were hiding in the basement of a townhouse, which looked just like their own. In this fantasy, she and Pete had a system of secret passages and passwords, thanks to which they would manage to sneak out onto the street to provide food for Hanya and Eva, who couldn't leave the house at all because cat hunters are patrolling outside. In the meantime, nothing of this sort was happening in real life. Natalka and Pete went to school like other children. Thanks to their secret, the siblings knew that now and in the future they could rely on each other. It was clear to them that they did not only go to school for themselves or for good grades. In the future, each skill learnt in class could be used by Natalka or Pete so that at a crucial moment they could help each other. Pete, Natalka, Hanya, and Ivo. Natalka, Pete, Hanya, and Ivo. Because hardly anyone rides white horses today, and tenants move into cellars only in extreme situations. That's why school is important. At last, the teacher dictated a task to Natalka's class. Write about what makes you, your parents, and your siblings feel stronger as a family. Natalka realized that all her life, all her strength came from the secret of her two mothers, Hanya and Ivo. But how could she write about the fact that when she was little, Hanya and Ivo sang her lullabies in meow, or that at home they don't say, "Time for supper," but "Time for hungry kittens," or "Why don't you sit at that table? Eat your supper, go to sleep, like a good kitten." Or that when Hanya and Ivo do not want children to overhear their conversation because they are talking, for example, about money or other unmeowy matters, they switch completely to meow, and then maybe Mikdao only knows what they are talking about. Or how to write about how the whole family cracks up remembering the day when Pete and Mikdao had decided to swap their night lodgings. And so Mikdao got Pete's bed, and as for Pete, Hanya and Ivo found him sound asleep with his head in a kitty basket. It was impossible to write about all this. People, even the most friendly ones, are only people. But if she was not able to write about any of this stuff, Natalka would eventually have to, instead of homework, hand the teacher a blank page. And then what? Natalka liked the teacher and didn't want to hurt her feelings. She decided to describe simple things so that people could believe in them and understand. At last, she started with the title, What Strengthens Us as a Family, from the perspective of Natalka, Pete, Hanya, Ivo, and Migdal. And underneath, although still at the very top of the page, I have two mothers.